Duff, your host.
And I'm producer Barbie.
And together,
we bring you our podcast,
Insights and Straight Talk. And with that, producer Barbie and I are out. Sorry. Hi. I was just telling our guest here. Now I'm afraid to say your name. Okay. Estefana. Close? No, I can't hear you. So, as you guys know, I have a couple of fixations, names and accents. This beautiful young woman with a couple of kids that are home on spring break. Good for her. God bless her. That are, I told her, I said, you got accent and you got a name. And I also told her I'm horrible with names. So you're going to have to come back on after this little introduction that we go through here, whatever that may hold or be part of. We are going to get corrected by the actual person who knows what she's talking about. And I'm going to just kind of float around as vague as I can until I can start to bring solid information into the conversation. Looks like we got a couple of people that jumped on real quick. Thank you for being here, guys or gals or whatever. So right now I'm really excited about this because as much as you know how much we do. Okay, this isn't going to last long. The air conditioning isn't going again today. Hey, by the way, guess what? I was just telling our guest here, we are, I know it, I said it right. See your last name, Ms. Johnson. I could do that. I'm going to call you that till I get your name on. There's a lady on here called Ronaldo, who's kind of a friend, and they're starting to pile in now. Okay. We're up to almost 20 now. But anyway, she's been a digital friend. Never met her, or talked to her, or anything like that. But she's awesome, creative, and I like content, and it's just kind of my thing now, especially with what I'm doing now. Boy, they're flying in, Ms. Johnson, and she and I have digitally known each other. It's got to be like 5-6 months. Oh, I forgot to ask you. I might cuss a little bit. I hope that's not offensive. I hope that's okay. It'll slide out just to accentuate a point. But I said her name. I said her name for like 3 months or 4 months before she finally one day she goes, yes, you roll the R's, but there's an A at the end, not an O. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. She did it. She was so nice. She just went with it. And then one day on a message on one of the social links, she informed me that I need to change a little bit. So now I call her Alda. So I'm really excited about this because you all know how much we are involved in mental health and in things that are out there available for the middle class to become that next level of competency and core ability and building your life from within, that inner child kind of becoming somebody who you're comfortable with now, that's grown within you to a point where, we're going through with AI and everything that's going on. I don't know why I'm leaning so much. AI and everything that's going on, the need for us as the great middle class is critically important to continue to grow and evolve and come together, because as a powerful, educated group, we're a powerful group in being able to oversee, let's say, the people running our systems, so that we get the advantage of this new world developing. But we have to be smart enough and confident enough and learned enough, research education enough to be able to really push that, because that's not an easy thing to do. We have to bring in the right people and take out the wrong people. Both sides of the aisle. It doesn't matter whether you're whatever. It's just a matter of the American people or the great middle class all around the world. We're the backbone of the economies of each government, the industrial of each government, and we're the ones that send all our taxes in for them to spend. So America spends 17 I forgot, Barbie, we talked about this a couple of months ago, maybe changing obviously, but at that time it was just over $17 trillion a year. And that's our money. And my thought is always there should not be a poverty line. I mean, why? I mean, do you realize that the Congress, the Congress budget for their office furniture is $46,000. That's more than the average income. More than 80. I think in Louisiana, it's more than almost every income as an average. I mean, there's an imbalance here because it's our money. It's not theirs. So this is not a political show. Well, all topics are on the table. This is about mental health. And mental health is something we need to get a handle on. And the elites have a lot more access to stuff than we do because they have financial means and different things that allow them to gather things that make them better or do better or this and that, educate themselves. And now we have these platforms that are growing up all over the place, including this one. Don't forget about this one. This one's important. In my opinion, it's the most important. Subscribe, like this. You're going to really enjoy this because I know why you folks are here. And, oh, wow, I've gone way over. Okay, here's the deal. Ms. Johnson has become my newest, bestest friend in the world in the 30 seconds we had together. But I also want to let you know, she's out there. She lives out towards the west, places I've lived, areas I've lived close to. And apparently we had this the last couple of days. There's something going on with the internet everywhere. I guess everybody's using it too much. So we might have a little bit of a flow like we did the last couple of days. I'm not taking any blame for it at all. But I just want you guys to know Ms. Johnson, Estefana, yes.
Estefana.
Yeah. Estefana. That's a beautiful name, by the way.
I mean, technically, to the rules, it should be Estefana, but there was no accent that you could put on an American birth certificate, so that was the problem. But it's Estefana.
They should have taken a pen and just kind of. The fact that
apparently that's not legal.
I know, my God, the legal systems are kind of quirky. I live in Illinois, and I did not realize, nobody notified me or anything. It's my responsibility. I turned 63 last month, or first part of June, and I did not know that my driver's license I had no reason to look for it. And then all of a sudden, I start pulling the paperwork together to buy this house. I'm looking at three of them, one of the three. I'm in final offers, and walkthrough is tomorrow, 11 hours away from here. I'm taking my dogs, packing us in the SUV, and going straight down. But I did not realize I was out of a license, or my license was expired. So I call up. There's nowhere. You have to call every morning at 6:30 in the morning. They did this new system where you can't just walk in and get your license. But I did that. They didn't tell me. Well, they weren't responsible to tell me. I'm sure it's somewhere. But since Friday, I've been trying to get a goddamn license, and it's been a pain in the ass. And every time I call, they're like, somebody set me up with an interview yesterday. It never went into the system. This whole governmental thing has just got to be streamlined and better off. But that's not what we're here to talk to you about. I want to hear about this CMI, and your work now evolving from also with children to strictly, as you put it, R-rated, 18 and over, which I thought was hilarious. 18
and over only.
That's all you get, man. But if you're under that, see me in a couple of years. The fact that you're on this journey is critically important for the people that you're talking to. Oh, they're here. See what I tell you? 10 minutes, 14 seconds. First question. And it sounds powerful. Someday I'm going to let her talk here. So maybe you'll hear that it is. Thanks, Gerard. So as we talked about, let's start with the journey that put you on the journey. We're kind of running a little bit late, so I didn't get into that. So I'm not sure where you're going to go. But like that background that brings you to a point that puts you on the path you're on now. Please.
Yeah, and I never would have picked it. I never would have thought in a million years I'd be on this path. At every milestone, this pull. But started off, I'm
exactly.
Mexican American. My parents are from Mexico, and so
what part?
Spanish was my first language. That's
what part of
Mom
Mexico?
Was from Juarez, Chihuahua.
Chihuahua? I love Chihuahua. I've been all through Mexico.
Yes,
I went to a wedding there.
Oh,
lasted till 5 o'clock in the morning, and then they partied on.
Around, they don't mess around. They commit. You're gonna have fun. It's gonna be fun for days.
Big time, exactly.
We do everything a little bit extra. Yeah, just a little bit extra.
Hell yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Hispanic family, very dogmatic religion. Like a cult. Very a lot of trauma in my family, history of trauma. No, it was like
non-denominational.
Can't cut my hair, can't wear makeup, can't have an opinion, can't have thoughts. It's like you just serve your husband, and it was rough. And then add to that, monolingual. Grew up in a dirt house, dirt floor. I joke around and tell people if you sweep around too long, like you end up with a basement, So it was just all the whole gambit and mental health. I tell people, like, if you had a DSM, it would be one paper. It's ta loco. That's it. Ta loca, ta loco. That's the only diagnosis. So I never ever would have that might be a therapist at all within the realm of possibility. It's interesting how things that happen along the way to kind of shoot me in this direction, including when I was selling furniture at Montgomery Ward's. A lady came in, and I was looking for a job because I don't know if you remember that store. They closed back in the day. I was working there selling furniture, and
they did.
She said, "Hey, you give me a discount on a couch." Yeah, she said I had an ad like next to my register, and discount on my couch. I'll get you a job. And so that's how I got into behavioral health. It wasn't like a plan.
Wow.
It was a mental health hospital working with teens, and just absolutely fell in love. I didn't even know that was an option, When I first started working with youth and teens, and I did that for 15 years. I joke around about how now I'm rated R.
Just like 5 years ago.
I saw it's like 5 years ago because I got just burnt out on the system. And saying we need to work with these adults. We need to teach the adults better. Because you bring me your kid, there's nothing I can do with them in 50 minutes that you can't undo in another 6 days, 23 hours, and 10 minutes. So when I first started, I worked for a nonprofit residential treatment center. And it should have been a hint. I mean, my favorite kids were like the little bouncy balls that nobody could stand. They just were like high energy, AVS, and rough. And that's kind of how I was when I was a kid. I had ADHD. I didn't know that. Didn't get diagnosed till about 3 years ago. Everybody knew except for me. I thought you knew
how it happened.
No, I didn't know. But as I got into the field, really fell in love with the work. Really fell in love with people, and the kids that I was working with had some really severe trauma. Life experiences.
Childhood
so all
trauma?
of them were adjudicated. So I started working with like 12, 13-year-old offenders.
Right.
And so to be an offender at that age, you can only imagine they're in state custody, residential. Right. So that means they're not safe enough to be out in the community. Hindsight, I'm like, that is like the hardest population. And that's where, now that I look at like the background, that's where I started. And I loved it. When I, back in the day, back then they still used like interventions where it was, they called it limit and lead. You know, you're going to force them to learn different. They're going to understand how their way, and they're going to learn appropriate behaviors and appropriate language. And that just didn't, no, they're not. You're going to learn that your rules don't mean squat, you know, when it comes to survival mechanisms.
Well, let me jump in just for a second here. In that, what you're saying, especially like I said, we do, well, by the way, there's 136 people diving in now. So, and by the way, you are glitchy. You're pretty glitchy. So if there's, I don't know if your kid jumped back on or something, but just so you know,
I hope not.
Just you're looking at him over there. Just kind of be aware that if I'm coming in, I'm saying something and waiting about a second and a half for you to answer. So let's work within that so we get the best stream of conversation. Just a little more awareness. That's all. Nothing big. But we got more questions popping in. So I wanted to get to, I forgot what I was going to say. I wanted to get to we like I said, we do a lot of this mental health. We do finance. We do AI, automation. You know, each of these things are critical to the great middle class in the mission that we talked about opening up this show. So a couple of people have really got me down this other path of understanding, in that, you know how when you learn something new, your synapses, your brain, gets additionally wired. Well, that's really true. Like somebody who has ADHD or what, their brains work different. So what you're got a little high. What you're saying there, like you said, your rules don't. And it's not because they're bad people. It's because their brains are different. So we have to learn how to help them work their way through that. Right? That's where you're going.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And and I can that because I was a misunderstood child, so being only speaking Spanish, imagine going to kindergarten and you don't know the language. The teacher sat me in and they meant well. They so meant well because they knew I was monolingual Spanish speaking. But unfortunately, they sat me next to this kid. His name was Luis, who didn't know his last name. And in my little 5-year-old brain, why don't I belong there? Because I asked Miss Cortinas, can I sit over there? She's like, no, you belong here. So I'm trying to figure out why. It didn't occur to me that my language mattered, because kids kind of just like can communicate and communication differently. I didn't know that then. Absolutely. I hadn't studied science, So I'm sitting and I thought, this kid doesn't know his last name. And I'm like, oh my God, he's an idiot. Like, I remember my little judgy brain. He is an idiot. Wait a minute. I'm sitting at his table. And so in that moment, I thought, oh my God, I must be dumb too. And I didn't even know it.
Wow.
That's I remember harsh. Getting a little sad and then getting distracted. I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll just do something else. And the teacher brought up, and I didn't know why. I didn't know all this stuff. And so that became what we now call a critical experience that not only impacted me, like school, barely made it through school, but even in adulthood, it impacted how I viewed myself, what I thought I was capable of, everything that from to how I viewed the world. So I think that was probably the start of trying to understand how experiences really impact, like, why people do things. My survival became a fighter. There was domestic violence in the home too. Right. So now I understand why. So I was a trapper, man. And so that's what I did, growing up, getting in trouble since that's at 4th grade. And you can't do that when you're an adult, like HR gets involved and, there's all these like judgments as an adult. So I didn't speak another language when it came to expression. It was like I didn't know. It wasn't that I just hadn't been taught different ways of dealing with disappointment, sadness, all these other expressions. So I think my drive to try, like, see me, teach me differently, because this is all I'm learning. I didn't know this is how I'm surviving. And so I know that made a huge impact in how I approached the kids I was working with. I always looked at their hearts. And that really is like the core of CMI, is instead of getting tangled up in, how they think.
Hold on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You a word left you right there, right before you said CMI. It's a critical word. I didn't catch it. I don't know if anybody else did. But can you say that sentence over again, leading up to CMI? This is obviously a keystone.
Yeah. So I think I think we call those critical experiences, right? Because they're experiences that really impacted your neurobiology, the way your brain and your nerve, which as an adult becomes a critical memory. It's something that happened back then that has impacted how I interact with the world now. Unfortunately, I updated it until I understood how our brain works, and that you can update those memory networks. And there are a lot of modalities, of course, called memory reconstruction.
Let's stop right here.
Structure. And I know that, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to do something for me, if you would, because this may fix it. Because you're going through into the science now, like every word is important, and it's very fascinating. But please, can you leave this? Could you get the hell out of here and then come back in? It may rebalance you. I'll just there's a couple of people I know on here I can kind of mess around with and say some things. So why don't you jump off and then jump back on and see if we get any better deal?
Yes.
Because when you first came on, we were doing pretty good.
Okay.
So go ahead. All right, I'm kicking you out. Jump off. So there, she's gone. Now we can talk dirty about her. Just kidding. So Ronaldo's here. I saw that. Is there anything out there that help for adult detached syndrome from their childhood drama? Wow, that's a great question. I'm going to go through some of these that I'm really excited to listen to her answers for, because the CMI approach, as Jared put here, CMI approach sounds powerful. How does it work with complex trauma? And that's where she was just going into now, and I'm really excited about that. But as she was going into the science, I see her pop back on. I don't see her yet. There she is. Let me finish this sentence and I'll bring her right back on. But as she was going into Estefana, stuck in that STA area. She's just getting into the science of it, really kind of starting to address Gerard's moment here, his question. So I asked her to jump out, as you guys all heard, and jump back on. Keep your fingers crossed. You guys all ready? Put positive energy in the air. Throw it out there to her. Let's give her those extra vibes that'll turn into internet waves. And I want to bring back on stage Estefana.
If it glitches again, I'll try jumping on from my phone. So yeah.
No, so far so good. No, really good so far at the second. Don't hoax it. Go into the CMI stuff. Let's see what you got. We got a couple hundred. We have 300 people on right now, by the way.
Oh, I apologize for my internet. It's Verizon, guys. I don't know if we can say companies or not, but I'm like, y'all promised me better internet. So
yeah, that's terrible. You know what's funny is, yeah, we're still okay. I'm gonna work with you harder. I promise. I was just gonna say the worst part about internet providers, usually they're better away from your home, where you usually use it, than in your home. That's kind of a quirky thing. I don't get it. But now let's go back into the CMI approach and see what we can pull up.
Okay. So when you experience something, your brain, something big, it doesn't have to be a trauma. Experience that I had in school, right? First day of kindergarten. There's a lot of either feeling with it or something big. Your brain records that as data that then informs future experiences. So we call those critical memories. It turns into like how that's okay. So how we see the world.
I was just saying that was awesome. Sorry,
I'm going to attach to people.
You know, we're both working our butts off here. Why don't you jump on your phone? Let's see if we could pull something off.
I'm doing that.
Because it starts off good, but then as we kind of go into it, for some reason, it starts falling off. You start losing data points. So, do you have a spot? Do you have, what do they call, a hotspot on the phone, or do you need to get off and go back on your phone?
I have a hotspot, but it doesn't always work as good.
Yeah,
Let me see
fine.
how this.
If you need to jump on, if we jump on your phone, that'll work out just fine.
Okay. Here we come.
Okay.
Wait.
Oh, wait. Why'd you jump out?
Because I'm on the phone now.
Oh, there you are. Oh, okay. I'm glad I was trying to remove you, and I thought I removed the new you. Wow, this is so much better. Oh, my God.
Is that better?
Yeah, I like the feather over your head, too. That's a beautiful little... Yeah, no, this is awesome so far. And your coloring's all there and everything. That's a much better connection. Absolutely.
Okay, good. Well,
now hopefully we got the sound. You're just I have a flip phone. What's yours, like an Apple or something? I set it on the table like this and go. All right, so anyway,
hopefully it holds good.
If you're comfortable, I don't care about that. That stuff's all fine. I just want to hear your words, because you're really getting into something that is really, really cool. And I was going through some of the questions while you were off.
Yeah.
And there's some really tied in people here. And I want to hear this. You're leading into this. This is so much easier to talk with you, girl. You're now my even better best friend.
Awesome.
The flow is a lot easier, and that's important. Whether it is or not, I'm saying it is. I'm staying with that story. So you're getting into the science of it. You're getting into. Sorry, my dogs love to play when I'm every once in a while. They like to be on camera.
Yeah.
Jerks. They're hilarious. But anyway, the sciences that you're getting, the medical part, the scientific part, we kind of started into that. And then with Gerard, you started to get down into the real, that critical thing that happens to you. It ends up being a memory that's left there that now influences your decisions. I talked about this yesterday. It's fascinating how the dots connect, and we never hear this. But you hear it time after time, and it's different people, and it's all this. It's not the same story, but you know what I mean. There's a congruence. There's an ability to see this is real, and we never get the opportunity to get it except for people like you. And so when we talk about this, the shaping of the mind, in different things.
Yes.
Everybody, whether you live next or you're standing next to me and you, somebody standing right here next to me, we do not live the same lives. Completely different lives, because everything's taken in, right? And those memories affected. That's where you were going, right?
So there is the saying in Spanish, cada cabeza es un mundo. And what that means is every head is a world. Every head is a world. Right.
Yes. Say that again. I want to say it.
Cada cabeza.
Cada cabeza
es un mundo.
Es un mundo. That was pretty good. That sounded really good.
Good job.
I'm going to practice that. There's a world in every head.
Every head is a world.
Oh, is a world. That's even better.
It's its own world, right? Your world looks very different from my world. In my world, bean burritos are the prime. Like, that is the best food. If you've never had one, I really feel sorry for you. But if you live on the other side of the world, you probably have never had one. So your reality is going to be different from mine, right?
Yeah, carne asada and chorizo is way better than just
That's
beans.
like there, but I don't know. Something about bean burrito. Something about that.
My son loves bean burritos. Just loves them.
Like my comfort.
And by the way, he's Hispanic. I mean, it's a. Now, do you use, when you say bean burrito, do you use the black beans or the
Pinto.
the lard
Pinto.
beans?
Yeah, pinto.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so flaky. So a little bit of cheese in there.
Yeah, but everything, I mean, words, think about words. If I think of the word love, it's going to be very different experiences from your experience with the word love. I think of the word respect, very different from your experience with the word respect, right? To me, respect is something that you are. It's a characteristic. But with the kids I worked with, respect was something you earn. It was like a bargaining chip. And I'm like, then that's not who you are. If it's something that you do that has to be earned, it's a bargaining chip, right? There's a difference between that.
That's a good
And
point.
even the definition, to show respect in some cultures or certain experience is going to look very different from how you grew up showing respect. I mean, there's all these nuances that would get tangled up.
Oh, jeez.
Thinks the way they do. It makes sense in their world. Might not make sense in my world, but it makes sense in their world. So these are kind of all the nuances that got me kind of frustrated with the system, and what we do as mental health providers is so limited and so like rigid. And especially when working with outliers, like, kids that had some pretty significant behaviors early on, it just led to me really asking questions about what we were taught to do to treat trauma. Somebody asked something about complex trauma. I mean, if I have someone with complex trauma, it's not like we can find their big T traumas that led to it. So they'd be like, pick a day, Thursday, Friday morning, who knows? Like, you didn't even know it was a thing. That's just what life was. I didn't know we were poor. I thought the people across the street, I mean, that was like life goals because their houses moved. They lived in trailers. So that was like our big dream. I was like, when I grow up, I'm going to have a house that moves. Like, big dream. That was my reality. I didn't know that, we live in poverty and this is traumatic, or this is like, I was a happy kid, a naughty one, but happy.
That there is a beauty to ADHD, isn't there? You're making crap all around you, but you know what? Hey, squirrel, you can get off of that subject real quick.
There's a point. It connects. They call it dolphining.
Yeah.
The dolphin goes under. There's something underneath there. You just see it pop up randomly. It's all connected.
Yeah. So I brought it back to Gerard here about as far as the complex trauma, but I brought. Oh, by the way, I hold a second here. Bradley Pomp shows up not regularly, but pretty periodically. And I made him a promise that every time he shows up, I'll give him a shout out. So Bradley has what I think's the question you're going into, and or the answer that you're going into. Why is memory integration? So actually, you know what? I'm actually a little ahead as I think about it, because we haven't really gotten into what the aspects of that are as compared to traditional therapy. Is this a good lead in, or do you need more color in that later?
Because I can explain. So how we think, right? The way we perceive our expectations, what we think to be healthy or normal, all of that comes from a deeper place within us. It comes from our experiences. So the way our body works, like the sensations in the body have already emerged by the time we interpret and think, right? So maybe traditional talk therapy, you're trying to go from understanding what the person is explaining and expressing and trying to make sense of it and connect it. Here's the problem with that. You don't even know how you think oftentimes. Like, you don't recognize that how you think or the way you view the world is not congruent with the way the other person experiences the world, right? That just even pausing to think about that, the differences in word, the differences in experiences, makes this a lot more complicated. Number two, our cognition is not really our intelligence. Like, our intellect and ability to rationalize here is
Right.
easily overridden by our nervous system response. Nervous
Makes
system
sense.
response is wired based off of our experience. So I can have, let's say I had a kid that punches people in the face and I'm like, that's bad. Okay. So let's talk about how you think that lets you punch people in the face. And they could talk, they can make, oh yeah, there's domestic violence. This is what I learned. And they know it all. But the moment they feel threatened, boom, it's out their mind and their fist goes up. Right. And now I'm broken.
Can I add something to that? Just because, like I said, this is personal. So
yeah,
a lot of things you're saying I connect to, including, hey, squirrel, that ability to go off on something, but to not know what your mind is actually thinking. Nobody ever thinks of that. I mean, literally, unless you're in your profession or gone through some experiences that people said, hey, do this. Naturally, you just don't think of that, especially somebody with ADHD. I'm doing 9 things at the same time. Last thing I'm thinking about is what. And on top of that, it all came to head for me, not head, but it all came up for me like a year ago, where I've been compartmentalizing all this stuff, this bad stuff in my head for so long that finally I hit the wall and it all blew up.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. That's what you're talking about. But what I'm saying that for is because when I, before that, and still, you're working on yourself all the time. But I can tell you in retrospect, because of a producer, Barbie, who you saw in the beginning, and she's probably floating in the background. She's a little angry with me right now. So maybe not. But she literally walked me through the point where I could take off the mask I was hiding behind. Because I was so unimpressed or embarrassed or whatever. I didn't have from a kid. I mean, I was in sports. I had all that, but childhood trauma stuff. Yes. And so I lived behind that mask. I got a nickname called JR. Rod went away, for forever. And I fooled myself about it until at one point I had to confront that. And then it just collapsed.
Yes.
And it's easier to fix it step by step instead of your boxes flying all over the room. That it worked. I'm not perfect, but I'm better, way better. There were a month I went into depression after I couldn't get out of my house, and I'm a salesperson. You got to go out and see people.
Yeah, you do.
It was tough. That was tough, but I walked through it, and at one point I said, man, am I ever going to get better? I mean, I was scared.
Yeah.
I was scared. She let me go ahead. So people like you, not like you, what you're talking about here. And by the way, we're at 500 now. People like you are things that save people's lives. And so go ahead. I'm just going to stop right there. Otherwise, it's going to be a puddle of water here.
I would say I am you. I am you. I am a human. I went through the same experience. I was trying the same tools. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? Because, I'm supposed to do self-talk. And I'm like, yeah, I am strong. I am this. And body's like, bullshit, no, you don't believe it because that wasn't my experience. And I joke around about how when you were saying my name, you're like Estefana, and you go, Miss Johnson. I'm like, that's why I married a Mr. Johnson, so that people would like talk to me. They couldn't mention my name for crap. All these.
I can get that. I was the same thing. I was afraid to talk to you. I kept you in the the green room for a couple extra minutes because I knew I'd have to say that. But
you're going through the job, and they're like, just call Sally Smith. People passing me up on jobs, and I was like, I'm gonna marry me somebody that's easy to like. It worked 20 years, it's good.
Oh, but, good for you, man. Good for you.
Okay. But speaking of all that stuff, is that you don't know what's normal, and you're attracted to what you know. And so whenever people are telling you think differently, look at things differently, I don't have reference point in my brain to what that looks like. Number one. Number two, our nervous system, very suspicious. You go into something different that doesn't match your reality, and it's going to like flag it right? Like,
wow, yeah,
like PSA after 911. They don't. It's gonna be like, I don't trust this. You're being too nice. What is your
what's going on here?
what's going on there? And that's just the way we're wired when we go through trauma. And so what other people might
Wow, good point.
Is a problem or some issue with the way we think, or the way we perceive things, it really is an adaptive response. And so part of our approach was trying to normalize the human experience based off of what we know about how the brain works, the nervous system works, how we are wired, as we grow up. And I do want to say, mental health, there's so many tools that are very absolutely valuable, and you need those too. But if you don't get to the root of why you think how you do, or right, like taking an apple tree, cutting off the apples and stapling on oranges, and you turn it into like,
Ooh.
For now you do, but what's going to grow back out? Whatever is being led by the root, and the root is not always something that is explicit, right?
Very
So we know attachment happens from birth, to age 5. Anyone remember when you're like 10 days old and mom didn't come and pick you up when you were crying? Like, I don't remember when I was 10 days old. And yet those experiences impact.
Oh, they're in there.
Yes, they're in there.
You're saying they're in there. Ah.
It is memory, Rod. And this is the biggest difference. A lot of memory reconsolidation approaches make assumption about how to access those memories. Some look for negative cognition. Some look for.
Let me stop you for a second. Sorry for interrupting, but I know you're going to be able to get right back on this. Absolutely. I just want to make sure that we're leaning into Clive here now, aren't we? Because I'm looking at what you just said about at 10 days old, you don't remember, crying for mom or dad or whatever. Nobody picked you up at that time, and so that's an unconscious, it isn't consciously remembered. So that's what we're talking about with CMI, is being able to dig down to that root, find that up, clean that shit up, and let it start feeding healthy stuff back. That's the big dumb overview that we're working in here, right?
They're called implicit.
Beautiful.
They're not explicit, they're implicit. They're underneath.
Implicit.
Right?
And
the more is subterranean and the less is above ground. We become less aware of what's underneath there. So you come to me as a therapist and you tell me
Hold on. I didn't get this. One of the other things, I'm a safety net. So if I understand it, everybody here is going to understand it. So I'm going to ask questions because you're the expert, right? You know the terminology, something. What did you just mean right there? What you were just talking about?
Think about, do you remember as a kid, you remembered everything? Like you remembered experiences that you have. The older you get, it's like your brain has to decide what to do and what to release and let go.
Oh, okay.
System. Unless you have that like super memory that you remember every single day of your life.
Yeah, that's different.
The older we get, it's the less we recall consciously about experiences. Think about, if I asked you to write down every day of your childhood, maybe we're lucky if we get 20, 30 incidents,
maybe a couple
out of thousands of days. So this goes into subconscious mind, but it doesn't mean it doesn't inform how you see things right now. Even the most nuanced things sometimes, like this thing that was not a trauma, right? But it was there was a strong emotion when I realized I was dumb in kindergarten. Nobody was beating me. It wouldn't be part of the ACEs. It was like, did you have a kid who didn't know his last name in your table? That's not one of the ACEs score, that made you assume that you're not smart enough. I didn't even know that I thought that about myself. For me, it was fact. I was like, there was deficit there. My creativity was extra. My emotional expression was extra, but I didn't know that I had any cognitive capacity, right? You just don't know that. It was. So
you're not, what you mean by what you just said, you don't know that you have cognitive capacity. So what you're saying by that, at that age, you don't know that it exists. It exists. No, I'm glad I asked.
Yes.
Please.
I had the ability to do well in school, but it wasn't within my realm of experience. So it became that I was not smart enough to get like A's and B's like Johnny and Sally and the other kids in my class. And so, but I could fight, I could scrap, that's what I could do. Or
that was your gig.
Yeah, I thought I was going to major in art, like painting, drawing. I love doing that stuff. And so that's what I was going to do, some creative stuff, because I didn't know I was capable of even going to college. It didn't mean I didn't have that capacity. I just had never tapped into it and wouldn't even know how to tap into it. So if I come to you, I'm struggling with something, you could tell me, oh, Steph, you're smart. You can figure this out. And I'm like, nothing in my experience tells me that. It took work of connecting, making connections and doing different things. After I married my husband, when I got my bachelor's, when I got my master's, graduated with a 4.0. And I'm like, how did that happen? How? That doesn't make sense that I got straight F's in fourth grade, but I could do college work because I was interested, because I was engaged, I was passionate, right?
There it is.
Those things, it was aligned with who I am at the core, who I was born to be. And that's why I did it well, because I found my purpose and it just came with ease. And it's about how I have connected to that thing that comes from within you, that is telling you, go this way. That's not you. This is you. That's the thing that we're connecting to. And when you connect there, everything else starts falling into place. You realize what things that are incongruent, right? I'm like, okay, I'm not an angry person. I don't have an angry part. I have that tool to protect myself that I developed early on in life. And because it was the only tool I had, I did it for years and I mistook it as my identity, right? It's really recognizing and differentiating who you are from what you've experienced or how you survived whatever experiences that you had in life.
So if I break this down a little bit, or not, I'm not breaking it down, I'm just doing whatever I'm doing.
Process.
I'm trying to process. Yeah. So if what you're saying right there, to bring it to just a dude's level that kind of has some experience, what you're doing here is bringing you're looking into yourself and you're building that up. And while that you're doing that, you're purposely bringing as much of those experiences into your back into your consciousness. Or am I kind of off?
You're learning how to tune in. Your body's already telling you. We're tuning in those signals. So the big difference and any experience.
What does the signal look like? What does this signal look like? You just said you're tuning into the signal. I get you. I just want to dive down a little more.
Yes. A signal, anything that you would identify as a problem, that you would go see a therapist or you would talk to, is a signal.
Okay.
So,
okay. Yeah, I've had a few of those.
Yeah. If I'm like, Rod, I don't understand why I do this thing. I'm so annoyed. If I know better, I should do better, but I keep doing it. Signal, right? Yeah. Why do I act a little extra? My husband, leaves the cereal box out and doesn't, and I just, I'm like, that's it. Our marriage isn't going to work. Signal. I'm like, that is not a reason for, dissolution.
You're freaking harsh, lady. You are harsh.
Hey, I've softened up over the years. He's taught me how to chill. But I'm telling you, even when poor dude, he's the chillest dude ever. When we first got married, I was like a fighter. I'm like, I got my list here. I got stuff dating back to 1972. If you piss me off,
I'm bringing it with me.
I'm bringing it with me. And this guy was like, I love you. What do you need me to do? Who does that? What is wrong?
I love him. Who is he? I want to meet him.
Awesome.
I want to marry him.
Yeah.
He's an awesome dude, man. That's awesome.
Me. But it was so weird to me. So someone else can tell me that's healthy, but my experience of love was not that. It was fighting.
So true.
It was passion. It was arguing. And if you're not, how can you say you love me when you're not fighting with me? So weird. It's, you could read it in books, but when you experience it differently. And the things where people get stuck.
Yeah, because we're humans. Reading a book is great, but we're different. We're human experience, right?
Yeah. So now when we talk about signals, right? Emotion is a little extra. You find yourself stuck in patterns. I don't know why I keep picking the same person. You find yourself like
Oh yeah.
not being able, something within me, you have this dream and you really want to do this thing, but something holds you back and you don't understand why. And it's not logical, right? All of these things, somebody who experiences anxiety, well, anxiety is supposed to inform you of something, but if you're chilling at home and you're safe, why is your body trying to inform you of? Well, it's probably coming from back there. It's not coming from right now, because our brain is a predictability machine and it uses whatever experience it has in the background to inform the now. But if all of those experiences are like getting attacked or getting betrayed or all that, then that's what it's going to look for in the now. And even
can I finish your thought? But I want to jump in on that. Finish your thought. Sorry, I went too early.
Our brain will even kind of tweak the reality now to match what interpret, right?
Interpret, yeah.
Experiences. That's how our brain works.
Wow. So you talked about an experience versus reading a book. It's totally different, right?
It's very just how we learn.
You just reminded me of an experience, because remember after the boxes ended up all over, the next two blocks, it blew out of my head and I had that issue. And then I went into depression, and I mean, suicide was there several times. And I obviously didn't do it. I'm kidding. But
which is the common experience whenever this transformation is happening, those thoughts, because there's a part of you that's dying.
Yes. And on top of that, so I went through all that, and then I started, producer Barbie literally spent a lot of time walking me out of the darkness.
Yeah.
But even after I started, I got to a point where I could come to the office. I was still afraid to go see customers, but I was in the office, the studio myself. Well, back then it was an office. I sold equipment, but I built and sold equipment, but I was safe. There was nobody around. There was no reason, but I was constantly panicked that there was something impending happening. What you just described, and then I got to a point where I had good days and bad days. I thought I'd never say that in my life, but not even 6 months ago, I was saying, and I call Barbie. She's in California now. I call her and say, today's not a good day. I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but you just described that time. That's that next evolution I went through. I don't know if it's always the same, if it's that harsh, but I went through that. And even to the point today, every once in a while I get this, I don't feel right. I feel off.
Yeah.
So it's softening, but yeah. So I'm reaching back to something that isn't real now, feels real. The brain's saying it's real. The nerve system saying it is, but it's actually something from the past that is back here going, ooh, messing with you or whatever. Is that what you're saying, right?
Describe it. It's something that hasn't integrated. It hasn't connected. It's like this puzzle piece that is floating around, still informing the now, but it hasn't connected to the rest of it. So your brain doesn't know that time has moved on and you're now an adult. You're not that child from when you were 5.
Oh,
like old.
Whoa,
Intel.
That's another level.
Yeah, it's old Intel is what it is.
Yeah.
It's not in the now.
That's another level. I mean, I've never heard somebody say that. I mean, think about it. It makes sense. If it's locked in, you've got whatever it is that's building you, but it's there.
Yes.
But if you got something floating around that hasn't, and it doesn't know that because it's still floating around and it hasn't attached, was the word you used?
It's an integrated, like connected,
integrated,
right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
A puzzle that's undone, or
you
ever watched a show that leaves you on like a cliffhanger?
Cliffhanger, yeah, that's what that is.
As a kid, you didn't understand what happened, or you dissociated because it was so traumatic, or whatever story, whatever happened, it was left on a cliffhanger. And from then on, that's what, like the flashback, the brain's like, oh, is this the rest of it? Oh, is that our mom? No, that's our neighbor. This acts like my mom. But now we're, yeah. Now we're responding from there instead of from here.
Wow, I've never heard that before. And I do a lot of these. I don't know if we're at 250 yet. We're at 240 something. I haven't looked at it lately. Of these shows, not every one of them on mental health. So, but all I'm saying is I'm not an expert, but I listen. I'm curious, especially now. The show kind of really is building the muscle to be curious.
Yeah.
You got to use it, right? So that's interesting. I've never, ever, and I've heard a lot, so I can say this. I've never heard any approach like that. Not approach, that. I mean, that makes a hell of a lot of sense. Where'd you pick that? What's the educate? So you have a BA and a master's. Are they in this field?
Yeah.
No. Yes.
I think my creativeness,
Where'd you get it?
I got it online, Walden University. I don't think it.
That's not that.
Oh.
Where did you get this concept of it hasn't attached yet? Because that's a bold, big thing that you don't hear, but it clicks in. It makes the puzzle piece fits.
Yeah. It's an analogy for what.
Just as you're going through your doing.
Yeah. Well, no, it's our. Yeah, we have an amazing team of clinicians. I have a colleague. I call him my left brain because he's like the researcher, Brian Livesey. He's a doctor. But, we look at all the research on what neuroscience tells us about how emotions are made, how memories work, how people develop a sense of self. I've studied a little bit of the psychedelic, approaches just because I'm part of those researches studies as well, just to understand how like our experiences and memory networks, why do people get stuck? Some people seem to make those connections so easily, and it's so much more complex than just following one path, right? There is a pattern.
Wow.
And if you understand
the
pattern, if you can understand the pattern of this, then you can get to the root. But you can't assume where it's at. You have to learn to follow the signal. It will take you to where it's at. That means I am not the expert. You are the expert of you. You are the expert of your own world. And I have to get out of the way, and I have to provide that space for you to be able to follow that signal to that experience. But
as I like to put it, life, and this is kind of off the subject slightly, but it's going to support it at the end. We talk about on here, life is not a straight line, nor should it be a straight line. You're not learning anything. Life is a journey, right?
Yes.
What you're talking about now, and what I meant, what I talk about as an expert, you're right. I'm the expert of me, but I need you to put the lights down on the path so that I don't fall off. I use the analogy. When you bowl when you're a kid, there's bumpers so that you don't fall in the gutter. Yes. That's what these lights are along the path, because it turns.
We call it parameters. We're putting parameters on there.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why we need you.
There's a couple things that we do as a therapist. I'm holding the space. What does that mean? It means that number one, my signals can show up if you bring up something that I haven't integrated yet. So if I got some mom issues that I haven't worked on, and you come in and you say something about your mom, our brain understands things like autobiographically, right? So it goes through the context of what I know a mother to be. And if there's any emotion or any unresolved stuff, it's going to really impact how I perceive your issue or how I interpret what you're telling me. So it is to be integrated as possible and to understand when it's my signal and to do that, take care of those things that emerge. Number two, our nervous systems are picking up way more data than what I could show you with my face. You ever walk into a room and you didn't see anything, but you're like, something's off in here. Like they either had a fight or there's something going on between these two.
Yeah.
That is your nervous system. I think they call it neuroception is the word that a doctor uses. And it's a beautiful thing. A lot of people don't understand that it's meant to do that because it informs us before we're even aware of something. You could call it, in Spanish, there's a word called presentimiento, and it's pre-feeling. And it's essentially all the information that's coming. And when it starts forming, right, the feeling is coming before we interpret what's happening. We get the sense of what's happening. Your nervous system is picking up on my nervous system, not just my tone of voice, my tempo, the mirroring, all these things. And I could fake that because in college, we're kind of taught, hey, use it to calm tone, do this. But your nervous system, if it picks up something, let's say I was like, oh no, he's talking about his mom. Now my mom comes up. My nervous system kind of clenches, right? Because I'm like, put that down. I don't want to project. I don't want to. and then let me put the voice on and let me do my therapist thing, you still can pick up on signals of my name without even knowing the nervous system is picking that up. That's why they say the relationship is the most important thing. You have to feel safe with me in order for me to be able to put those parameters so that you can go to your deep, dark place, the scariest places. It's like, I mean, I made bad choices as a teen, but it was worse if I had a friend with me, because then, hey, let's do it. You know, you got a buddy, and then you go explore like the haunted house, or you go, you know, leave a note on, you know.
Got a little bit more gumption, got a little bit more, courage. You know, you're gonna go do the good or bad. You're gonna go do those things when you got that support. Yes. And what you said was really critical too, because, and I want to get into Ronaldo's thing here in a second. I think we're still okay in this. We haven't passed this up at any point, but you said something there as far as the ability for us to pull those experiences, to do this, to do that. It all goes back to being able to hit those experiences, live within that, and then be able to go out into the world and be able to have that better next level with a little bit more information. But when you just talked about walking into a room, and yeah, you could feel if there's an edge, or and it probably goes back to the fight and flight days when we're a caveman kind of thing, you know, because we're nature. But one thing I wanted to ask you is, we talk. I've had several conversations about your body gives off, your brain. You know, you've got three brains, right? You've got a brain, you've got a heart, and you've got a stomach, and that puts out a frequency, info. Not necessarily.
Well, it's info. It's data that's coming out too, and that you're picking up.
So you can also pick that up from them. Is that kind of the thing you're talking about, or is it you say nervous system? That's where it's coming from, right? The nervous system, because it wants to react.
Yeah, and those things are, and they call it like heart. I don't know if you've ever heard of heart coherence, but like your heart also sends out like a certain.
Yes, your heart's supposed to be stronger than your brain, actually, from what I hear. You know, it's got more energy because it controls the brain, actually.
And you know that when you feel a hug from someone who absolutely, it feels so different. It feels so different. You feel it, right, at a depth. That is the power that we hold. To me, that's the true intelligence. And it's so underutilized because we overutilize the analyzing part of, and that is like.
Go ahead. I keep interrupting you because you're bringing up so many great. I have a great second, just a second happened. A quick thing about the hug. Go ahead. Finish your thought though.
This is our intellect is like the smaller intelligence. This is really the true intelligence. Yeah. So I'm 63, right? And my oldest son a year and a half ago had his first daughter. My second granddaughter, the second son had high school sweetheart. Went in during college, they got married, and a year later had a baby. So they're way ahead of Brandon. But the reason I bring that up, and actually that's where I'm moving to, the first son, not because of the hug, but I still remember it right now. But when I walked into that house, and we hadn't seen each other for a little bit, and just a couple of dad and son, and he gave me this hug. And then I squeezed it. I've never experienced anything like that in my life, ever. I mean, year and a half later, I think about it all the time. When you said that, the heart, that connected, because it's so true. Now I can't wait to get back down there and give him another hug. I mean, that's a powerful thing. Yes, you have a reference point for that. That is a critical experience. That is now a critical memory. And when you access it and it has a positive feeling, you call it nostalgia, right?
Yeah. You do.
They call it a flashback, but it's a positive, you call it nostalgia, right?
But I can feel it, not just remember it. I still can feel, like when I remember it, I feel that it was this thing in your body that just kind of lifted me, and the rest of the week, the rest of the year and a half has been just a little bit better. If I got a hug like that every day, I don't know what the heck I'd be like.
My question would be, for you is, do you hug yourself that way every day?
I never hug myself.
You have.
I admitted it. Okay.
Yeah. I've worked really
hug
hard.
yourself every day like this.
You can even just put your hand in your heart.
Oh yeah. I've heard, yeah. Okay.
Yourself,
I get that.
You remember talking about all the hard stuff that you went through and you made it to the other side. When Barbie reached out to you, that was so painful and hard. And yet you persisted. You persisted, and look at you like thriving and growing and learning and expanding. How beautiful.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Have you appreciated yourself? Have you taken the time to talk to him and tell him, good job, buddy. Good job. I'm proud of you.
Wow. That's powerful. So literally, when you say hugging yourself, you're there's a connection, obviously, of some sort there with the frequency, the energy. But then what you're saying is you're also bringing that terminology, I don't know, that words that create images. I'm proud of you. Be proud of yourself. Hey, Rod, look where you're doing, where you've been.
You're bringing the experience. You're bringing the experience of the suffering and the pain that you endured, and bringing it circle to the overcoming and the.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay.
Side. All right. And it transforms it. It makes it powerful. You can only usually in therapy, they call it a corrective experience. We call it a connective experience, because you're connecting things. You're integrating them. You're connecting to what your journey has brought you. You're appreciating everything it has taught you.
You know what's blowing my mind right now? I don't know if you heard a word I just said because I mumbled it, but what I'm thinking right now is you just said something that's really important that could easily be passed by for all of us out here. You said in traditional therapy, I don't remember the exact word you used, but that it's a corrective. In what experience? In what we're talking about now, it's a connective. That's a big difference. Corrective is negative.
It's corrective like something was wrong. Nothing was wrong. Yeah. It was in context.
Wow.
What the situation was, right? That's where you get a lot of people say, oh, you got to have self-compassion. How the heck is that? That's like telling me, make the house smell like chocolate chip cookies, right? The smell of chocolate chip cookies.
Now I'm freaking hungry. Thank you. Thank you very much. You just made me. Now I've got a sugar.
That would have been better. Right. But I would hate that candle. I'd be mad because I'm like, I'm hungry now. That did not calm me down. I need you to make the food. Right. Self-compassion is the result. It's the essence of understanding, acknowledgement, honoring. When you recognize, you acknowledge how you persisted through that difficult thing. Right. Even without the tools that you had, even without the understanding, yet you persisted and you made it to the other side. That's where that compassion emerges.
Wow, that's powerful. That's really, really powerful. That's another level. I used that word a couple of different times during some of these discussions because, like I said earlier, nobody hears that. We don't have these kind of shows that don't just scratch the surface or are on NBC and there's a commercial every 30 seconds and that's all fine. But this ability here for us to really reach into something and have the ability to say, now, what did you mean by that? And just dig a little bit. And then you're clearing up a whole bunch of stuff. Because what is it? I've never heard the exact number, but I know it's got to be more than 60%, maybe as many as 70% of, let's say, Americans. I don't know what the difference is around the world, but I'm sure they're pretty similar in the civilized world. But mental health of issues like this, because we don't know how to handle it.
Understand, and we've been misguided.
Or understand, yeah.
Yeah, we've been misguided to seek answers outside of us when it's inside. And that's the difference. I don't even have to know what you're addressing. When I'm guiding you through CMI, I'm putting the parameters, right? Continue going, continue following. your brain will tell you what you need. Your system wants to heal. That's why it's sending you signals. Hey, this thing right here that you're doing isn't who we really are at the core. Right? Where did it start? Show you.
So you're putting the lights down, or you use the different analogy, but you're putting the lights down along the path. But then your brain is saying that's where we have to go to get there, and you're laying those out. But again, we're doing the work, like you said. Okay, continue. Oh, make a little bit of a pivot here, kind of thing. Yeah. Walking you through. This is such a critical thing because I don't know what the numbers are, but there's in children, and we talked about children earlier, but children all the way through adults, that's an existing thing. People literally walk around in depression, walk around in a world that isn't natural to our bodies. And what we've always been able to do is take a pill, and that kind of numbs the effect. But what you're talking about is what really makes it better. I do want to get to Ronaldo here in a second. I think right now, if we could, because I think it's I don't want to lose this, because we're going to continue down the path, and this is a slight step to the right. But I like this question, if you don't mind. Do you mind if I interject this? Yeah, and then you continue down the path and just work this into that as well, if you would?
Yeah.
Because she's asking here, is there anything out there to help for adult detachment syndrome from their childhood drama? I'm really curious about this question. I get the whole childhood drama, and I know a little bit about Ronaldo. Where's do you know what we're talking here?
So I hope I'm understanding this correct. If she's talking about attachment, like attachment issues,
adult detachment syndrome.
Yeah,
so maybe detaching from their life and wanting to be somebody different because of childhood drama.
So
kind of like, oh, whoa, that's me. That's what I was talking about with the mask. I didn't realize that before.
Yeah.
I think that's what she's talking about. She'll clear it up because she's listening. I guarantee you she's into this big time.
So if it's how we attach, how we connect to people, right? Our parents are the first reference points. So if we don't have a healthy relationship there, then like for myself, I had the avoidance dismissive, right? I tell people I thought I was just gangster, I was born like that, but no, it was an attachment thing. It was that here I have a caretaker, right, that I have to rely on to care for my needs. And if they're not capable because of their own unresolved trauma, because of their own experiences, and they don't have that skill, then my nervous system, my brain is wired in such a way to survive that. And so then it became like, hey, if you don't need them, right, you don't have to, you kind of disconnect from them. You conserve energy. Others get, right, like the anxious attachment. Don't leave me. Or like there's different attachment strategies that were ways of adapting for the environment you were born in. It becomes a syndrome or a disorder as an adult because it doesn't match, because you're you're a grown woman and you're struggling with connecting, or you're a grown woman or a grown man and you're reliant, you're codependent, or whatever you want to call it.
A lot of that out there, both sides. A lot of that out there.
It's an adaptive strategy. Where was this learned, right? I have somebody who has enough resources within, and they can step in. That's what they call like the inner child work, right? You as an adult.
Yes. Right.
Then that could be done in here, because what's important is the experience of it. Just like you talked about a moment ago where you felt that hug internally. That's what I'm guiding you to, the right experiences to help those neural pathways.
Okay.
Right. But sometimes I have someone, like I work a lot with complex trauma, DID, things like that, like pretty severe presentations.
What's DID?
Dissociative identity disorders. So like someone who wasn't able to like develop a very strong sense of self. So there's like multiple, like they call them alters, multiple identities. So
you've worked with people like that?
Yes. Yeah.
That's got to be tough to live that way. I mean, they make movies about it. That's how I know it, understand it. But that's got to be tough. You're You're somebody different now. That's my mask. That's on steroids. You know, that's big. That's hard, right? That's a hard thing.
I think it's important, Rod, to again, the cada cabeza es un mundo, right? Sometimes we get wrapped up into these things of this person had it hard, that person had it harder. You know, we tend to like,
right,
you know, put ourselves down because it's like, I don't know why I'm so upset or why I would be hurt when at least I didn't go through A, B, C, D, which is like the most detrimental. Any comparison, it keeps us stuck because that's not a reality, right? Whatever you went through is what you know. Like I said, when I tell people I grew up in a dirt floor, a dirt house, they're like, oh, for you. I'm like, that's all I knew. You know, I don't know anything different. So it's really important to grasp. Yes, of course. I think like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. Some people are just given so much crap. They start life like hit the ground running before they even know how to walk. And you look at something like complex trauma. Here's the thing that I have learned, and at least for myself and a lot of people who come see me, no one wants to be pitied. You know, there's compassion, but then there's pity. See me. Yep. Don't look at me with fear or disgust for what I have been through. Rather see the part of me that got me through that. See how resilient, how powerful I am. Doesn't mean that we minimize those things, but this is the difference in the approach too, is that I have to be willing to go to your darkest places. I have to be willing to be with you and trust and believe that you have the power to work through that. You didn't die. You're already here. You already survived it, but we need to catch up your brain, right? We need your brain and to catch up and to connect those things. I'm not the one that's going to push you to certain things because that might not be what you're ready for. I'm teaching you how to trust yourself. Your brain, your heart want to heal. But the problem is the discomfort. It's uncomfortable. We feel like we're going to die if we cry, if we hurt, and we think that we need to alleviate it. Right? No, learn how to tune into it. Learn what it's telling you. All it is data. It's information from inside the body that is trying to.
Could you imagine how much? I mean, society also dives into that a little bit, especially with men. You know, we don't have to get into that whole thing, but men have never been somebody that really starts to look and investigate within themselves. They just barrel ahead. You know, they're just making it happen, and you know, blinders on. They're taking arrows, and they're not talking about it. You know, and the more we do that as men, the worse it gets, and that's why there's so much mental, especially in men. I think it's way more in men than women. I'm not a doc. You know these.
Well, it's because in our society we look at something like that. You know, you got to be a man with like machoism or whatever.
You're not worth it.
Human thing. Emotion is data. It's you take the feeling. So what do? Shove it in the back of the closet, right? And close the door. Shove it back. Before you know it, you have to put it in the room. I call that emotional hoarding. You know, I'm like, you're just chuck emotion. And then what happens? I see this a lot with like first responders. It works and they feel nothing. And then they hit year 20, 22 in their field and something just, and they fall apart. And they're like, they try to do what they thought was working. It wasn't working. It was just delaying. I know that's my theory on midlife crisis. I'm like, what you've been avoiding. Stuff you've not like digested. You haven't been yourself. And now everything falls apart. It will catch up to you.
You run out and buy that convertible whatever car. I wish all I had was a midlife crisis. I actually didn't go through a midlife crisis until boom.
Oh, like boomer.
No, exactly. It was like crazy. Hey, listen, I gotta put a flag up here real quick. I told you I had a little bit of a hard stop. That we've got a tour coming up. No worries. I'm just going to want to try and run through some of the questions a little quicker, if you don't mind, even if because I keep digging you down into it. So now I'm going against myself, but I also don't want to cheat. You know, it's our responsibility to give them the answers because they're giving us their time. They're here because of you and me. Well, you, right? So I want to make sure to be able to.
The time of how it takes, it really depends on the individual, but I've done this with people, you know, as little as like 5-10 minutes, depending on how the person's the person's willingness tolerate, to be able to sit in the discomfort, right?
Okay.
A feeling doesn't really last longer than 90 seconds. So I told him, if you can go there, the next thing will come. The next thing will come. So it really depends. In terms of how it differs.
Oh, wait. Hey, Dirk, thank you very much. Great question. We don't have to run.
Okay.
Just yeah. So I'm thinking here, I've got 40 minutes to the next, and I'll probably want to take a breath, drink some water. These things are energetic, right? So, I just want to step back for a minute and ponder the universe as I get ready to go back into the next show. So, I mean, literally, we've got this one you were just going into. There's just some great questions. That's why I don't want to miss them. And I always tell people to come 7 minutes early. And if I show up late, they're like, what the hell did you make me do that for, you jerk? So this one is, but anyway, 1, 2, 3. Oh my God. Oh, Ronaldo came back. We got about 10 questions. So, a couple of minutes each question. We should be doing in pretty good shape. If we fall behind, this is my big job. This is my big job here. So I'll work it. But anyway, Chell. She's been on here a number of times. She's one of those names like yours I love to death and am scared to death of. How does the approach differ from EMDR, which I don't know about, or somatic therapy? Neither one of these I know nothing about. I don't know. Maybe I do, but I don't recognize them.
I think it's important to note that any effective trauma therapy is going to have more similarities, right? There's more similarities than differences, and that's what we call like universal truths. That's what lets us know that was one of the modalities looked at and kind of mapped out to say what works here, why does it work? If I was to tell you like the explicit differences, maybe like we're not using bilateral stimulation. It doesn't mean you can't. Like very rarely have I done any either eye movements or like touch points with an individual that's doing a CMI session. That generally would be with someone who's having like an active flashback, and we're using this pattern to help them get to the other side, right?
What's that look like? Hold on. What's that like? You just said touch and something else? What
like
is that?
EMDR, bilateral stimulation is like either eye movements where you're moving your eyes back and forth, or they tap. So either tap on, you could tap yourself left, right, or on your knee. Or I have these things called touch points, and they buzz, or some of them call them buzzies. Go left, right, left. And all of those things are great because bilateral stimulation helps you calm down. This is why people who are nervous, they like walk or they drum on their lap because they help the nervous system relax. And let
me ask you something. And then go on. I'd shake my knee a lot. Like you see everything shaking right now. But I'll sit in my chair, and when I'm doing something, especially if it's really boring, my knee, I'll bounce, your heels up off I'm not going to show you. That would be weird. But I'm on my, like the palm of my foot and my heels off the ground, sitting in the chair, and is that what you're talking about? Is that a nervous thing, or is that something different? Because a lot of people do that. I've seen it.
And everybody's different. It could be part of your ADHD. It could be part of.
That's what I know it is.
Everybody's different. We might do the same thing, but just for different reasons. But I wanted to finish also like the phases, I believe, and I'm not fully trained in EMDR. I've done some trying to understand the approach better. But I know they have like an 8-phase model, and they generally go through where the actual work starts is finding a negative cognition. We're looking for signals. So that means that it might not be a cognition. Not everybody's aware of like their beliefs. So we just start off with whatever the individual presents us with. It's very somatic in the way that we're following, we're expanding. We call this sensation emotion expansion. So we're tuning into those body responses instead of tuning out. So instead of trying to clear them away or trying to regulate or breathe through them, not that we can't use breath, but again, we want to move into it. We don't want it to go away. We want to know what it's telling us. So that's kind of one of the primary differences from this versus like other trauma approaches. And for those of you that have something like complex trauma and you're like, I can't tolerate that, it's structured in a way that the clinician would tune into what your needs are in that moment. So I have very few individuals that we are taking it a lot slower. There's a lot more psychoeducation. There's a lot more safety building. But I could tell you the majority of clients that come in, they are resourced enough to go through this process. And I mean, I just had someone yesterday that was like, is it weird that I feel like I'm not broken, that I feel like I'm fixed after seeing you for 2 months when I've been in therapy for years? And this is because I wasn't the one telling her what she needed. You know, I wasn't telling her which memories we were going to go to. We start off with where things are showing up, follow that. She made sense of it. I don't even know where it was. We're both surprised of what it takes them to. But I think a big difference too is that we are tuning into the process, keeping those parameters to keep the safety there, and getting to the point where something shifts, right? Like in the same session. So CMI is typically done within a session. I think I have, you know, out of all my clients, there's very few that we've had to do a lot of prep work before we get there. I hope that kind of gives a little bit of info. And this is the thing, because EMDR also is a approach for memory reconsolidation. It's just a different way of doing it. But it's that piece, like memories show up in way different ways. It could be something explicit, like an event. It could be implicit, like I had an individual that connected to her sense of worthlessness to being teeny tiny. And it wasn't until after we did CMI and she felt that release that she actually disclosed that she had been conceived out of an assault. Her mom was assaulted. And so it made sense to me that that experience went to even before she even had words, you know, before she was born, but it was a felt sense. Where is it stored? In your nervous system, in your DNA. Those are the things that could be missed because there's not going to be, you know, you have the cognition, but it might not have connected all the way there. Is that, you still there, right, Rod?
Oh my God, I'm sitting there talking to you going, oh my God, that's so amazing. And then I was just starting in, and then thank God you said, are you still there? Because I wasn't paying attention to here. I'm looking up here. That's a problem. I look here and I could see you, and then if I'm on stage or not, but I'm looking here and so I can't tell I'm not on stage. And then I'm sitting there talking to you and going to the next one. You go, are you still there, Rod?
Oh.
And I'm like, oh shit. So what I was saying is that, God, I love talking to you. This is so very informative. You know, this is so much stuff that I've never heard of. I guarantee you, you know, the people asking great questions are, you know, checking and doing research, and they're probably desperately trying to find out how to get through that process. But what you're talking about is so much more that, I mean, all we know about is psychologists, psychiatrists, you know, that kind of thing, which is really old school. I mean, and especially compared to what's reality now. I imagine all this kind of stuff that people who are in that next level of ability to get information have much more exposure to this, where we probably haven't. And it's just so, this is another rewarding moment for me, a feel good moment, because this is big stuff. Whoa, you got a really cool bookshelf there, don't you?
Yeah.
That's nice. That's beautiful. So excuse me. So here with Jason, incredible work. Thank you for, I skipped right. Estefana. Thank you for your service to foster youth. Now I know you graduated on this a little bit. It sounds like, am I missing something here?
Yeah, I do work with, I actually am a volunteer. I'm clinical director for local organizations. I've been with them for like 6 years.
Oh.
Yeah, we do advocacy, support, assistance for foster parents. So I do a lot of their training, a lot of their clinical directing, you know, clinical director. But we have a school we're opening up. So I'm writing the program for that, for a trauma-informed school for foster kids, you know, it's based off of CMI.
When you say school, do you mean online, like a community?
No.
Or a school, brick and mortar?
Brick and mortar. We have a community center that literally was completely revamped. It was an old church, old dilapidated church we bought, and the community came in and all contributed to get us like a commercial kitchen. We do like life skills classes. We have library. We do psychoeducation for parents. We provide resources like food boxes, pantry. We have food pantry, and then we have like care packages for when individuals get foster kids like dropped off in the middle of the night with nothing but the diaper. Or so we do all that under one roof. And then we have a generous donor who has helped us now start Shade Tree Academy, which is a school. And we just broke ground about 3 or 4 months ago to build up the brick and mortar school for foster kids. So it'll be small classes, the way it should be done for kids with
a
trauma.
regular school. You mean like a K through school?
Yeah.
School. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's
yeah.
big dedication right there. So teaching these kids at a level that you're entering their world into something you know about versus the public school system that you're important, but they don't know what you're all about, right?
Working with the adults, we're hoping that we can establish a program that's going to help yield better outcomes for graduation rates for foster kids, because we know like half them kids when they age out, within 2 years they end up in prison or homeless or or dead.
They're dead.
Yeah. So we want.
I had a foster kid. I fostered and then adopted a kid, and he had his mom was raped by incest, that's what he started life out at, and then a couple other things happened, but it was a very powerful.
Yeah.
And there were other things that he got his fingers ripped off and through an accident, and at school, 8th grade education, they were doing tug of war and it looped around his finger. Of course, kids are brutal. He got his fingers torn off, not cut, torn off.
Oh man.
And so he had 7 surgery. So this poor kid went through from before birth on through hell, literally. And the only thing that was there is me and my 2 boys and their mom adopted this child, and we gave him the best life he had until he grew all the way up. Went out in the house, and then they found him overdosed in a homeless shelter. Sad. Now it's still questionable, but that's a powerful thing that you're talking about, because it does affect people and drives them into the ground. Did I miss this? Hold on. Yeah. By the way, Jason, great for you. I mean, that's a big deal, and that's a big commitment. Now he's also moving on here, Jay. By the way, we got about 10 minutes, so I'm gonna.
We're getting there.
Oh, we only got a few more.
Okay.
We're fine. I just want to. I don't want this to stop. I wish I didn't have that. Luckily, I have an hour buffer in between because I know these go over an hour. Now they do. They never used to, but it's just moving along. Can this be applied to? Well, here, right here. You just said that, Jason. Yes, they can. So go back over that school thing, right? Because that's what you're doing. But it's not yet. It can be, but it's not yet integrated into regular school, right?
Well, no, not at all. We're very new, so we still. I mean, we're just training clinicians. Critical memory integration is working with memories, meaning like it's usually adults, right? Which means those experiences happen in the past. When you're working with kids, they're still developing their sense of self. So what we're doing there is critical experiences is what we're focused on, which means that the adults is the ones that I train with the CMI approach so that they understand what's happening, how to better understand.
Okay.
Instead of looking at it like this kid is disrespectful and we need to, either punish them so they learn not to be disrespectful. No, this kid lacked the skill. What skill do they lack, and how do we teach that to them? But it starts off with us being aware of the rules that we have in our own mind and our own perception of things, and integrating those things so we can come from a clean slate, right? And what the child is doing and what it is that there's where the deficits are, and then how to provide those experiences so they see themselves differently. It's a different.
It's funny that you're describing it this way, because it goes back to what I just said is the public school, and I'm not knocking that or anything like that, but what you just said is a way for, it's like we talked about early on in the green room. We talked about this atmosphere that we do. We kind of like to keep it a little comical and light, and we a little bit here and there, because that's the way people learn better. Now that's different what you're talking about, in that if kids can learn better in a different scenario, that's what you're developing here. Your
Yes.
clinicians are, and versus, let's say, fourth grade kid in your school, and then a fourth grade kid in public school. You're teaching all the same things, except it'd be like going to. I hope this isn't a bad example, but some of my kids went to a Catholic school, private Catholic, and they learned all the math and the sciences and this, and then they also learned Catholicism, or they learn additional things here in school, regular school. If you're lucky, you're getting taught math, reading, English, this and that, but as a box. I got 35 kids in here. I'm teaching this. That one, and that one, and that one. And everybody else probably are taking that information in differently. Then when you have the kids that you're talking about, they're coming out of foster, they're broken, big time.
They're lacking severely. Yeah, there's underdeveloped capacities. I wouldn't call
and they've experienced things that nobody else has.
Yes, they've had adversity beyond what their capacity could handle. Right?
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Have adapted themselves. So if you come with like punishment, so let's say me as a kid, right? I didn't speak English. I spoke Spanish. So I do bad on my grades. What happened? Well, I get punished, right? I didn't get to go to the end of the year trip because nobody asked me, do you have anyone at home that helps you with homework? No, I'm getting whooping at home. I'm getting, chastised and told to read the Bible. Like, that's not part of my reality at home. If anyone had paused to see why is it that this kid seems to be capable and yet is not performing, maybe the issue isn't with the kid. Maybe it's with your understanding and interpretation of what's happening. And a lot of teachers don't have the time, the resources, or understanding to do that. So it's no blame on anything. These are things that I think we need to change with our systems. Is us adults need to better understand how humans work, how your brain works, how your nervous system works, how behavior emerges. And if we understand that, then we can work with rewiring that. So
That's beautiful, man.
So the kids that I worked with, instead of coming and saying, why are you punching the wall? There's going to be consequences. I might be like, hey, come on, Kevin, or whoever it is. And we go and they're waiting for me to punish, waiting for me to upset. Nope. I love them as they are, even when they're grumpy and angry. And as we go through, I get curious and I'm like, man, you're such a cool kid. You're so kind and nice. And I love hanging out with you. I wonder what was going on there. Cause this is not like you, man. You're usually pretty respectful to walls. Like, what happened there? And all of a sudden
you're developing.
Yeah. Who they are is not the wall puncher. Who they are is outside of that behavior. And it's a different that now gets them curious about what they're doing and why they're responding that way.
Exactly. That's what, that's dynamic. All right. I want to hit, this is you're a beautiful person. Wow. This is incredibly helpful. Thank you, Estefana.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm practicing. I'm going to get good at your name by the end of the show. I almost guarantee it. Jennifer, right? Thank you for this. I mean, I'm sure, she's not talking to me, obviously. Thank you. This is an awesome show. Mike, is this approach helpful for people who've been in talking therapy for years? Yes. Yeah, I know this is true. Go ahead. Brief description, because we've gone through this, but yes, please address Mike here.
Brief is that we're teaching you to tap into what you don't know that you know, right? You're just sharing what you know and you're going around in circles. It's what you don't know that you're getting tangled up in. So you're tuning into that. You're following that signal.
I'm smiling because I like this. All right, let's talk psychedelics for a minute. That's always a fun subject. How do psychedelics tie? And they do, because they open up different parts of the mind. You go through a journey, right?
I have I'm an image person, right? So you think about an experience. A memory is stored in the neural network. That means like the synapses are firing in a specific map, a specific pattern, right? If you picture those neural networks building on each other, think about it like a spider web, or you ever seen those brain images with this? You're talking
about synapses right now?
Yeah, kind of thing? Firing and wiring together form patterns, right? Patterns of how they fire in a pattern. And each individual, La Cabeza es un Mundo, has different patterns that create those networks, right?
You keep teasing me with your damn accent. I just love it. Keep doing that. Work that in. The Spanish language is beautiful. Yeah. It's just gorgeous.
So,
go ahead.
But what we've learned in neuroscience that thus far as I have heard, is like they've identified like 72 of these networks that exist, or probably more, right? But there's one particular one called the default mode network, which is essentially the patterns of what becomes you, from your language, the way you think, the way you feel, right? And it's kind of default because it's just kind of your day to day, how you function.
Sure.
Default mode, especially when it's like structured out of trauma, is going to be unshakable, right? You've been attacked by 3 dogs. I don't care how much research I show you, your body's going to say, no, we're not going close to that, right? Anything that has to do related with survival makes it extremely difficult to use. We know that there's neuroplasticity where you can change these things, but if it's with survival, it's going to be, uphill battle. So with CMI, we're using other techniques to help change some of those structures. But when you have individuals who really struggle, that's where the psychedelics come in. It's like a biochemical process of silencing the default mode. And so there's other networks that come along online, and I picture it, and I haven't experienced, I've witnessed it because I'm a dosing session monitor. So that means I get to sit in the room while they're going through the treatment. But what happens is that,
what do they use? What do they use for, like, what kind of, what's typically used, or does it there's different ones?
From like, the traditional ancient wisdom, like ayahuasca, things like that. But now we're studying, right now we're studying LSD for anxiety and psilocybin, which is mushrooms, so there's different.
Mushrooms are back, man. I'm surprised. Mushrooms are back. Microdosing even, which is a health thing. And then the other.
It's not like in Arizona, it's not legal to use as practice, but it's legal to explore. So it's like a pharmaceutical company that's doing the study. I just get to be a part of it. But with psychedelics, that's essentially what's happening, is that default mode network is
interesting.
So I picture it like you being, in your life from in the middle of the forest versus aerial view of your life from the top of the forest, right? Being able to see the whole map of connecting.
So the psychedelics is this versus we live in the forest through the trees.
Yeah, the forest comes down. It silences that default. So now you can see the whole map from the top.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
That makes a great. I've always wanted to try ayahuasca. You got to have a what do they call them? A guide.
Yeah.
You could have a really bad thing. I've never done it, but I've heard a lot about it. You live in Arizona. You know what I'm talking about. You live near Sedona? Do you live near Sedona?
Yeah, about 2 hours. I think it's 2-3 hour drive.
North of you? Yeah. I've been to Sedona a bunch of times. That's kind of where that world lives, with energy, energy mountain and all that stuff that is there. That's really cool.
I was there once. I almost hit enlightenment. I was this close, and then my husband called me and he just ruined it all.
Oh, what a jerk. No wonder he has to be so nice to you. He's making up for that. Were you in one of those tent things where you reach inside your, I never did that, but I've heard
No, they have vortex points that you're supposed to go to.
Yes. That's what we did. That one vortex point is that kind of mountain thing, right?
Yes,
we did that. That was awesome. That was awesome. But Richard here, live energy is on point. Awesome guest.
Awesome.
I told you this show is growing like crazy, and it's because of folks like you, and it's because of the presentation and all that. But it's also because you're bringing information that people don't normally have access to. So Sam here is critical memory integration effective for veterans? This is a big deal. My dad was a Marine. I do a lot of work with the veterans, a lot of PTSD, a lot of stuff.
No, my brother was in the Navy, but my colleague, my beloved colleague, I call my other half Brian, Dr. Brian Livesey, is actually a psychologist in the VA. He is a veteran himself. This was part of his drive, is to find out, because a lot of the modalities were not cutting it. And he's like, how can I come and see my brothers and sisters suffer, and I'm supposed to use these tools. So, follow him if you can find, and actually, I think he did a podcast as well today. But you can go onto our website, Arise Alliance, and look for the stuff, and you'll hear him talk about that. But yeah, I work with veterans as well. But, part of our development team, that's my colleague, is a vet as well. Yeah.
So you do a lot of that. And I'm glad you said what you just said, because I neglected to say it. But what you said about the website and all that, would you please, we got 2 more questions. We're running tight here. Because remember, we start 7 minutes early. So I'm just, but I don't want to leave. It's like that, when you have a lover, someone you're in love with, and you just don't want to leave for the night, and you talk on the phone for an hour and 2 hours and 3 hours, tell you, I'm going to lay the phone down on my bed and I'm going to listen to you as we drift off. That's what I feel like right here, because this is so valuable. I'm not hitting on you, but you know what I mean.
I feel it. I'm like, I love people. Yeah.
This is an awesome thing that we're talking about here. Awesome talk, watching from the start to end. That's rare. We still got 400 people on here. We're going to sneak up really close to 2 hours. So, Paula, what is it? Paula. Interesting. Paula Jenkins. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. I'm going to take some credit for it.
Yes, of course. Great host.
So Ronalda, she back. Remember, she asked that question and we were trying to decide, and I said, I guarantee you she'll. So yeah. No, my kids were. Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Whoa. Hold on. I did not know. Hold on. This is a big one. No. My kids were kidnapped at 6 months and 18 months, as they are now adults in their 30s. I kind of, okay. Diagnosed as children with detached syndrome and now have problems with attaching where to get help. So we were talking about attaching to relationships. And I think that this is similar, but this is different, right?
It's all related, because we get our attachment map early on, right? We all have that blueprint for attachment. And then based on our experiences, we either follow that healthy one, or there's adaptive ways that look maladaptive as adults. But I would recommend, anything like that, anyone who specializes with attachment, and I don't know where she's located, but I would look for a
South Carolina. I know she lives in South Carolina, somewhere there or North Carolina, somewhere on the East Coast. That's all I know.
I think it's worth mentioning that, sometimes as mothers, especially, we really mean well, to want to get some help. This piece, it's hard work. And it disrupts your whole reality. I said, usually there's a breakdown before there's a breakthrough. So we really want to be conscious of,
I like that,
the individual's readiness to address the things. And maybe you think this is the issue, but there's so many other things that they want to work on to kind of self before they get to the thing that we think is the issue.
Wow.
Right. So I want to make sure that, I appreciate, comes from a place of love and compassion. But, encouraging them to connect and to find someone that they feel comfortable with, exploring their experiences, because the trauma piece is very individualized.
It goes back to what you were saying earlier, kind of attach that so that thing's not floating around and you attach it. Okay, so it's the same, integrated. Yeah.
Critical memory integration. Opposite of segregation, integration. We're coming together. Stronger. That's where integrity comes from. All of you is connected. Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're talking about now in this great middle class, integration, not segregation, because that's where everybody wants us to be, right? As far as the divide and conquer, right? It goes all the way through.
Saying, I don't like the feet, well, the feet are what's getting you places, head. Like, you got to
work together, brother. Work together.
Yeah.
And listen, this has been an awesome show. Would you please? And I'm gonna disconnect I'm gonna lessen on the outro because I'm trying to take as much of this as I can. And let's do a follow-up. But did I say, maybe I got ADHD, right? Did I say to put your website and all that? And I meant to say it earlier. Private chat in the private chat. When the red light comes on, I'm going to copy and paste it into the comments, because I know, how it is. Somebody's going to come back in an hour after the show, a week, a month, a year, 10 years from now, well, that's a little long, but if they got your contact information, because they're going to write a comment and ask me what you meant. And I'm going to go, I have no freaking idea. Here's their number, and it's here in the chat so they can follow up with you. And people always follow up. I get calls back from guests all the time. That's the way to do it. Yes. So that's in there now. I'm going to copy and paste that over. Why don't you give a wrap-up thought and a wave to your fans? Please leave some of them with me. All of them with me. I'll share with you.
We're all connected. We're all connected.
That's
right. No, I appreciate
final thought.
Time. I just appreciate you guys showing up. I'm just honored to be able to share this space with you. And if any of y'all know, we just launched CMI like about a year ago, last year actually. So January of last year. So desperate need for clinicians that know this approach, because the demand is outnumbering the supply. And so if you know anybody that's a mental health or psychiatrist or anyone in the field, please send them over our way. Send them over to our website. We have free webinars where we give them information. They can ask all the questions. They get CEs.
Ronalda is a great possibility. Yes. Do you have to be on site or no?
No, we do that all. Yeah.
You hear Ronalda? I know you.
We have somebody from Kuwait that trained, other countries. Yeah, but we need them to be exposed.
Pass it around, guys.
Know what it is.
Pass it around.
So if you don't find a practitioner near you, let people know. Let the offices know. Send them over our way, and we'll teach them. We'll train them, and then you can have somebody that will the approach. So I appreciate your time. Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been an honor.
Thank you. Big wave. Let's. Hey, wait for me in the green room. I'll go over a couple things, but let's keep in touch.
Okay, I will.
All right. Hey, that was a good click. That was good timing. Yeah. So what a great show. It was even tough in the beginning. Oh, here, I want to put that back up there. Got you all covered there, girl. Arise Alliance. Hey, wait a second. Hold on. I should not do this because I know I'm going to run. What .org? How did you get a .org? Are you part of?
We're a nonprofit. Yeah, we're a nonprofit organization.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah,
all right. Go away. Wait for me. I'll be right back. Hey, by the way, there's one rule. In the green room, you can't eat any of the green chocolate-covered peanuts, okay? The M&Ms.
Okay.
Okay? All right. So there's the information. And freaking awesome, guys. That was, I got everything on there, right? That was, and I want to go back to Ronalda and, I know you know a lot of people in this area. This is a great opportunity to pass some stuff around and let's spread our knowledge. Seriously, what she's saying, she's not asking for your money. She's asking for, let's grow this thing together as a community, like we talk about coming together. We love the fact we're able to do that here on Insights and Straight Talk. I'm Rod Duff, producer Barbie, of course, Ronalda, and of course, our wonderful guest, Ms. Johnson. See, I haven't said that wrong. Oh my God. Never mind. I'm out.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out.